Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Tara Woodruff with Tara Woodruff After Hours. This is my third video for this channel. I have recorded others that I just didn't like, so I deleted them. Um, I generally wait until after I've uploaded a video before I decide what I think about a video. But for some reason, I guess, just through the process of it, I was like, this is ridiculous. As a matter of fact, the last video I made last night was at the end. I was like, I'm going to delete this video, so bye. So it was pretty funny. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about my way of eating. I created a new playlist called Proper Human Diet on this channel, and I started it with a Dr. Chaffee video that I just watched this morning, and it's excellent. And it really kind of gives a little perspective on the science behind it. So um, I'm going to get a little bit into that and just basic morning coffee talk. It's morning for me. I'm getting ready for the day. I've had an interesting turn of events. Either today or tomorrow, I'm going to be going to look at a place for a quote for my cleaning business. And this could be pretty significant for my business in so many ways. If it's something that I end up doing, it will reduce how many other clients I can have and also require me to look into getting some subcontractors to help me get this done. So that's pretty wild. I'm excited about it. It's interesting because I just prayed recently, like for this kind of situation. And of course, it comes and shows itself to me, and I'm like, holy moly. It's a complicated quote, and I really have to see it before I give actual numbers. Um, and I'm kind of excited. So, with that being said, yesterday, and I'm going to make a video for this, I'm going to put it in a recipe playlist. I videotaped myself making a ketovore chili. Now, I didn't want to do an actual ketogenic chili because I didn't want to overload it with vegetables that I would have done normally if eating a ketogenic diet. I did not also, I watched several and looked at several different recipes for a carnivore chili. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. It's basically just a bowl of meat. And that's fine for me, but that's not what I wanted out of a chili. I never put chili powder on my steak. It's like I want chili to be chili kind of thing. I've always been, no matter what way I was eating, a person that didn't want beans in my chili. So that's something I learned back in in the late 1990s. I worked at a place in Portland, Maine that actually had on the menu with beans or without beans, and it was my first time ever hearing of that. And apparently in Portland, Maine, there are some people that prefer it without beans and some people that prefer it with beans. I've always saw it with beans growing up, so I really liked the non-bean way. And I've been craving hots. I've been craving jalapenos and heat. So for whatever reason, I like them, but I really want more. And so that's okay with me. So I said, well, how am I going to make a chili that is not carnivore, but not ketovore, and not keto? And of course, the way I'm generally eating right now is ketovore, which means that I'm less than 5 net carbs a day in my food intake. And I've been very good with that. I just recently pulled back a little bit on dairy. I was doing a lot of kefir, which is fine. I actually need to go get some milk and get some more kefir made because I'm waking up my kefir grains. It's been a couple of days since I've had carnivore ice cream, and I was really loving that, and I do love that. It was keeping me from buying actual confectionaries, and that's really important when you're trying to get off sugar. However, I feel at this point I don't even want it. And the last time I had it, I was like, okay, this is delicious, but there's no need. I'm not hungry. And so That's the beauty of eating more meat products, is that your cravings disappear, which is great. And so I need to actually embrace that. And so I let that go. If I feel like I want more food after I've had my meat, I will have a cottage cheese, which to me, actually, at this point, is pretty sweet. And so that's that. And I don't have the whole container, I just have a little bit of it, which is great. I love that. So back to the chili. I went ahead and started. And I had seen somebody making a carnivore chili using kielbasa, which I was like, what? It's so funny because I actually just bought some and then I didn't know why, because I prefer hot Italian sausage. I'll eat a pound of that a week. And I was like, well, now I know what to do with the kielbasa, because I was like, I may have some sauerkraut, but I don't have it enough to justify having kielbasa. Like, all sorts of things were going through my head. So what I did is, and I'll show you in the video, but I took a little pulled pork that I had put away because I found that I couldn't have pork every day. I took a little bit of chicken that I had put away because I found that I can't have chicken every day. And I took some of the first chuck roast that I bought. I made like a pot roast in the Instapot. I cannot eat pot roast every day. That's something amazing to me because that's always been my favorite American dish. I always thought I could eat that every day. However, that's not true. Well, not now anyway, I guess. Uh, so I had put some of that away into little separate containers or baggies to use as garnish. All the pork, that, and that. So I took two, and I finished off the pot roast bag. So two of those, and they were small. The pork, one bag, and that was the last one of that, and that was kind of bigger. That I would say that was close to a third of a pound. And then some chicken breast was probably a quarter of a pound, and a pound of bratwurst that I sliced and cooked in a Dutch oven, and about a pound and a third to a half of 80/20 chopped meat. And I got it all in there, and I cooked it and cooked it and cooked it, and I added my spices, and I'll tell you what those are. Some of those spices would not be considered carnivore. I added homemade roasted jalapenos that I had roasted last year, so that's a chipotle. When you roast a jalapeno, that's a chipotle. Did you know that? And I had done that last summer. I remember because it's the only time my fire alarm went off. I was still drinking at the time, and I had it in the oven on really, really low, and Fancy had to go out to potty. And by the time I came up the stairs, the fire alarm was going off. Nothing was burning, but like, what the hell? So I had those in my fridge. Used a little bit of that, two of those, and a little bit of the olive oil, beef tallow, and then I added pickled jalapenos and a little bit of the pickled juice, the pickled jalapeno juice, and the spices. And I cooked it and cooked it and cooked it. I never eat my chili on the first day, so it's not done yet. It's in, it's in the refrigerator right now, melding all of its flavors together, and then I'll put it on the stove later on for dinner. And I'm going to eat it with a lot of cheese and a lot of sour cream because I made it hot. I didn't add any hot sauce to it, which I'm surprised, but I don't think I'm going to need to. I made it a sweet heat, and how I made the sweet part is I just dusted a little cinnamon on the meat after everything was all cooked together, and then I mix that in. And that just gives like this little hint of sweetness, and then the heat comes right after it. I love that. Love that. So, and I also, what makes this more on the keto side than the carnivore side is I bought a container of medium salsa. I really wanted tomato in it, even though I don't want tomatoes. Interesting, right? I I saw a lot of carnivores faking the redness of it with things like paprika and chili powder, and um, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want that to be like it all spice and just meat, like kind of thing. Like I wanted to have something else, and so I had choices. I had this. El Gringo, which is like a Vermont salsa company, which is great. And I always suggest that you go local and as real as possible whenever the budget allows, as often as possible, is more than most people are doing if you're doing that. But sitting right next to that was another brand, and I looked at that's not locally made, and I look at the ingredients of both, and it's the same. So the price difference was $3 for the same amount, and I said, okay, I'm going to go with the cheaper one because if I was just going to get it for a garnish, just to put it on top of like a cheeseburger or a steak or something, and have it more like as a direct flavor, I would have gone for the other one. But if I'm going to mix it up in a bunch of meat, I don't need it to be that fancy. And well, I should, but budget allowed. $3 more for the same amount was too much for me. So I added that, and then I filled that container up with my homemade stock. Now my homemade stock, this is the last bottle I have from when I used to eat vegetables. So in the past, I saved every end of every vegetable that I made. So there are mushrooms, onions, onion skins, garlic skins, any kind of vegetable that I ate, whatever didn't hit my plate went in bags and into the freezer. And then I boil it down in a stock pot with a bag of beef bones and whatever chicken bones I had in there. And that's how I made my stock. Now that that's almost done, I will finish it because it's delicious. It's going to be all meat. Like I think that my next batch will have one bag of vegetable ends and the rest is all meat. And I may even have to purchase more beef bones, to tell you the truth, because I buy them regularly, and Fancy gets a new bone every couple of days. So I filled that salsa jar up with my stock and put it in there, let it cook a little bit more, and then turned it off, put the lid on, and let it cool down so I could put it into the refrigerator. Today is the day. I cannot wait. I can't wait to eat it. And I'm hoping I'll be able to eat it because I'm really big on soup and stews, like huge. I could eat those all the time. So I'm hoping that I can continue to eat that until it's gone. I will know right away. This is the fun thing about eating more meat than anything, is you know right away what you're not going to eat twice. And it seems to be a trend when I'm looking at other carnivores. Um, and I thought it was just me. I didn't realize, but I pay attention to what other carnivores are saying. I watch their videos. I watch what they comment in carnivore groups, and this seems to be the trend. And it happened to me the other day, where it was obvious. Um, you start to just crave beef, and other meats like pork and chicken start to become not so appetizing. Not that they taste bad, but there's something about it that switches in your head. I don't know what it is. So I know pretty quickly whether or not I'm going to be able to have something more than once. And in general, with a standard American diet, I would cook enough for a family of 4 to have at least one leftover. So that means I'm me eating for a family of 4 with one leftover. So that's about 5 days worth of food, 6 days worth of food. So I would cook and eat it until it was gone over the course of a week. That's just how I have been lately. And now that I'm eating ketovore, I have discovered something really interesting. And maybe my first hint was the pot roast. Actually, the first hint would have been the pulled pork. No way I was going to eat that pulled pork every day until it was gone. There was not a chance. Then I had the pot roast, and even though that's beef, I'm not quite sure what. There was just something about it. It was probably whatever seasonings I used that I just could not stomach more than a couple of meals. So in the freezer it went. Recently, my friend bought me a beautiful farm-raised meat bird that I was like, holy shit, I've never seen a meat bird that big. And that's not true. But usually when you see leg quarters in the store and you know how they're this giant, you got to imagine this bird is huge. They actually do get that huge. And it's a meat bird. It's just not a heritage bird. So there's nothing actually wrong with it. It's not some crazy um, nuclear bird. Okay, it's actually a meat bird. Well, she brought it to me because she's building her house and they're living in their RV right now, and their oven is tiny, and she couldn't fit it. And so she said, "I'll bring it to you because I have a standard size oven." I said, "Awesome," and I love that because number one, I'm having a hard time finding the kind of chicken I want to eat, which is bone in, skin on chicken thighs. For some reason, the only thing people are selling around here are boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I find that gross. I just don't like it. I mean, it can be fine, and it's an excellent alternative, especially if you're doing a high fat, low carb diet, whether you're keto or carnivore. It's better to have more nutrition in the meat, which is your fat. Um, so I was excited about that. I do like chicken breast, even though it's kind of a waste of time. It's just all protein. There's no fat in it. But I like having a roast, and I was like, I could cook that chicken and leave it in the fridge and pick at it like a turkey. Well, no, I can't. No, I can't. The first night I had a little chicken breast and a wing. I was like, okay. And then I had steak the next day, and then the day after that, I had one of the chicken thighs with a wing on the side that I recooked in the oven. It was phenomenal. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I had steak the next day, and then I went to the other chicken thigh or the other chicken leg. That's what I had left. Everything else was in the freezer already. Plus, I had saved about a half a chicken breast and made some chicken salad out of it with a little bit of jalapeno, a little bit of mayonnaise and pepper, and that was it. I had that chicken thigh. I cooked it. It was beautiful. Smelled good. First couple of bites were just as cool and awesome as the first chicken leg quarter I ate. And then something just like switched in my head. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want any more. I was grossed out. There was nothing wrong with it. It wasn't bad. It wasn't turned. It wasn't none of that. It's not like I have children running in the house opening the fridge every 10 minutes. When I pack something up, put in the fridge, it's good for a while because I'm not in and out of it all the time, especially now that I don't have White Claws in there. I'm not opening the fridge every 15 minutes to get another White Claw. So I was like, what is this? I was grossed out. So I took it and I put it in a bag for stock. I didn't take the meat off of it. I was like, ugh. So I'm still hungry and I did not want to cook a steak. It was exceptionally hot that afternoon and I didn't want to cook a steak. Not that I didn't want to eat a steak, I just didn't want to cook it. So I was like, oh, I hope this, like, let me check the chicken salad I made because maybe I did let it go too far. And if anything's going to go bad, it's going to be that. It was perfectly fine. And I sat down and it was just a little bit like that. And I sat down and got about 3/4 of the way through it. And then I started to feel like this is disgusting. And it tasted good. I forced myself to finish it because I knew I was hungry and I didn't want to make a carnivore nothing. No ice cream. I didn't want to sit down and eat a whole quart of freaking cottage cheese. I just did not want to do that. So I finished it. And this way I was satiated. When if you're going carnivore or starting to replace 90% of your diet with meat, it's very likely that you will crave and want to stick to beef only. And I'm wondering if that is God telling you something because when you look back at like the dietary rules in the Bible, it's ruminant meats is what you're allowed to eat. Everything else, forget it. It doesn't it doesn't want you to eat anything with paws. It doesn't. They don't want you to eat anything with like some sort of hoof. I I have to look it up to be exact. Like, so that would be like a solid hoof. No. Split hoofs, yes. Ruminant animals are what is basically what the Bible says to eat. You can eat fish, but no fish with skin. It's got to have scales. It doesn't want you eating any shellfish in the Bible. Doesn't mean I'm just bringing that up. I'm curious if becoming more of a red meat eater actually talks your body into being more aligned with biblical eating methods. I don't know. I could be crazy. Have you noticed that? Are you eating carnivore? I don't know. Um, Eggs are allowed in the Bible, and eggs are like superfood. So you can have your poultry in egg form. I don't know if it said anything about, especially about not eating fowl. I can't remember. But what on earth? And pig is just notorious for not being biblically acceptable. Notorious. And one of the reasons why I thought that was the thing is because in the Middle East and in northern African countries, uh, indigenous people will sun dry their meat. So they will cut it very thin and put it on things like that look like clotheslines to you and me and dry their meat in the sun. That's how it's made. And then they eat it. Pork doesn't do well that way at all. Try it. Just do it as an experiment. You might not ever eat pork again. I don't know. I don't think that pork, from a human and proper human diet perspective, is necessarily bad. But I will tell you this: if you start eating a proper human diet, you probably will pull away from most pork products, especially the white meat. Isn't that crazy? I don't know, but I'm seeing in other carnivores that that's a fact. That happens to people. And I just think that's wild. So, steak it is. I've been enjoying my chuck roast. Love it so much. So, at first, I have a video on my other channel. I'll put it in my recipe channel. How to cut up a chuck roast to make eye steaks and Denver steaks. This past time I got it, which I have to go to the market today and order another one, or I'll be freaked out because I won't have it. And then I can only order it once a week, unless she goes ahead and does it. But I don't want to risk that. This time I put it in the freezer for a couple of hours to get it nice and stiff. I sharpened my blade really well, and I just cut it whole so that I'd have a chuck steak with an eye and a Denver attached. Dude, I cut 5. So I had 5 giant steaks to eat throughout the week. And some of them I only had half, like, and spread it around the day. But I think that's really cool. And I'm really interested in that. I think that's really interesting. Um, I could eat steak every meal, every day, all the time. All the time. It's nuts. It's nuts. So I'm excited about that. And we'll see how the stew goes. I'm curious because it's going to have the bratwurst, the pork, the chicken, and the beef in it. If I'm going to be able to eat it till it's gone, or if I'm going to have to freeze half of it and take it out later. We'll see. I'm really curious about it, but I will make a really cool video for you. And I got to finish it today because I want you to see the finished product plated up, and I'm excited. Um, what else? So as far as recommendations for you to look at for proper human diet, Dr. Chaffee, check out his channel. I put one of his videos, his latest video, in the playlist Proper Human Diet on this channel, and go check it out and go look at his content and then go from there. There's a lot of really good doctors out there and a lot of good practitioners of the carnivore diet out there. Ken Barry, excellent. And he's not super he's not dogmatic. Chaffee is not either, but he's really specific. And he went carnivore without knowing what the heck it was when he was in med school. And he had a doctor, he had a professor, a doctor of botany teaching the class about plants. And he just casually said, I won't eat them. They're trying to kill you. And he was like, what? And he studied what plants do and that they are poisoning, that they are trying to kill whoever eats it. And he stopped eating meat. He stopped eating any carbohydrates at that point. You've got zero carb life. She was told by her doctor in her early 20s that if she wanted to fix her life, she had a bad time with it. She was very overweight and she was suffering from cysts and crazy stuff like that. And he said, you need to stop eating any carbs at all. As she did. And she changed her life. And she's been like carnivore for 15 years or more. There's quite a few really smart people out there that are documenting this that have gotten there. There's Ocha Mountain something. He does like a talking head channel, and he's a. I don't think he's Gen X. I'm thinking he's borderline Gen X and baby boomer. He's right there on that border. And he went carnivore out of nowhere just because he was like disgusted with himself. He quit drinking, and then the food followed, just the way I did. And he talks about it from time to time, and it's pretty common sense. Um, there's a lot of people out there. Listen, pay attention, take it from what you will or leave it. Just pay attention. Do your best to eat the best food you can. Whatever it is that you do, whenever possible, try to eat local, try to eat whole and organic if possible. Not every farm that you are near is going to sell you organic meat or eggs. And the reason is you have to pay for that label. You've got to get an inspector and you have to pay them for that label. So that doesn't mean you're not getting organic just because it doesn't say it. You want to get to know who's raising your food if you're not doing it yourself, and a lot of us are not, and do your best from there. And you don't have to be a millionaire. People say that carnivore is expensive. It is not at all. I'm about to do my wrap up for June to compare how much cheaper it was than the month before and compare it to when I was eating a standard American diet. Now, I haven't drank in a long time, like over 200 and something, 241 days today. So none of my comparisons, well, I never included alcohol in my grocery numbers, so that doesn't matter. But last month was like a 300 plus difference, dollars difference, less by eating meat. It's amazing how expensive making sure you have onions and mushrooms all the time, how much cheaper it is not to. It's wild. I am sure that this month I'm probably cut my meal budget for the month by at least another $100. We'll see. I'll do a breakdown and I'll show you. So I've got to go to work. It's getting late, and I've got to go finish that place. I think I'm gonna bring Fancy with me today, if I can, because it's beautiful out. Then I got to decide how I'm gonna handle the heat up here. I've been letting it stay hot, but tomorrow's gonna be wicked hot, so I got to figure that out. Anyway, I'm off for now. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and putting up with my rambling. But I want to make sure I reached out and said hello and welcome And thank you. And yeah, stay tuned for the carnivore chili recipe video. And stay tuned for all of the fun stuff. For the breakdown of my grocery list. I can't wait. I can't wait. So, woot woot. Here's to your health. Here's to my health. Here's to all of it. I love you a long time, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye. I got to get up to turn you off.